Welcome to a new series on From Pain to Gain. We're going to be observing music, looking at the lyrics, looking at the beats, and of course, I got to speak to something close and dear to my heart, which is hip hop to start with. So, what we're going over today is Aesop Rock's Gopher Guts lyrics. So, I know it sounds kind of weird, but let's start together at 136, the minute marker, 136, because that's where the lyrics really start to get real and start to really speak to what we're going through as a society, and even my own experience too. So let's jump in and start with, I have been completely unable to maintain any semblance of relationship on any level. So it makes me think of, we have all these new dynamic or dynamics on relationship, where even just yesterday I saw a video saying why men are giving up on women in this day and age. And it's sad, but it's true. We in the last 50 years, we've had gigantic strides in equality. And how do you expect, a man to, having been used to for 5,000, 10,000 years operating in a patriarchy, to kind of make sense of that? And then add to it, they're kind of, in some cases, alienated. Like, you're just a man, you have everything easy. And it may not be the case for every single man. We are all subjects of our environments, especially. Some of us may not have had, what's the word I'm looking for? I'll just use a golden egg handed to us when we grew up. So it could be a difficult life, especially if there's trauma involved, which is just becoming more and more regular, more distractions involved. It's funny when people say, oh, this generation is stupid or lazy. Well, the reality is actually the previous generation is the one raising them. So that is who really should be looked at critically. So that by itself, powerful lyric. I have been completely unable to maintain any semblance of relationship on any level. Next one, I have been a bastard to the people who have actively attempted to deliver me from peril. By the way, I think I started on the wrong minute marker in my phone here, so I'll correct that later and let you know in the description what it actually started at, because it's later in the song. It's not the beginning where these powerful lyrics come about. So I have been a bastard to the people who have actively attempted to deliver me from peril. This makes me think of our country's dynamic overall right now. We've been kind of forced into these power vacuums where it's even hard to even talk to each other now. I'm totally recognizant that I've been a profanity word to a lot of people, and I know it's not good. It's just I'm very passionate about like seeing things ahead of time. Like when I grew up as a 12-year-old, as some of you read on a recent post of mine, I had to be an adult by the age of 12. I had to be the man of the house, essentially take care of things. Whenever things went awry, I would be the one just making sure everything calmed down. I was speaking in a monotone while other people were yelling, just calming everything down. So when I see any inkling of something about to go down, I'm like, why? Why? This is stupid. Stop doing this. This is obnoxious. And so, of course, I don't hide this at all. My feelings about Trump are about really not only the short term but the long term effects of that. Essentially, establishing this is a precedent of a man that we are willing to accept, and for a kid especially to see that is establishing a dangerous precedent. At the same time, I know there's lots of concerns with Kamala, and I'll speak more critically to that as we get lower into the lyrics here, especially when we talk into the devils, which I know a lot of people think of her as the devil. Let me see. I have been acutely undeserving of the ear that listened up and lip that kissed me on the temple. So there's been many people in my life where I could have listened to their advice and like, oh, you want to tell me what to do? Let me go ahead and do more of the opposite for you. So somebody that really loves me and cares for me is giving me this advice, and my I guess my inner child is like, well, I'm gonna rebel because I I want to just do this. I don't like to be forced into little corners or whatever. So there's a time for that, and there's not a time for that when in terms of listening to other people. I'll think of just a quick practical example. There is a guy that won the international championship for public speaking a few years ago. He paid like $20,000 per coach, and there was one particular part of the speech where he wasn't sure if he needed to give it up. What he ended up deciding was, all these people coaching me have never been through this portion of the speech, so I kind of have to just go with my heart, just put it all on the line. So he ended up just doing that and winning. So sometimes you got to follow your heart and just not listen in some cases. Oh, a related story. There was another champion that just outright didn't have any coaches whatsoever and ended up winning just basically off of impromptu speaking. So there's that too. But at the same time, if you have an expert, somebody that's had more experience, a mentor, going through something, especially if they've gone through it themselves, it's valuable. Let me see. I have been accustomed to a stubborn disposition that admits its wish, its history disassembled. So for me, that means sometimes we could, and especially me I think it was in my late 20s that I just didn't deal with any of the traumas that I had in my childhood. And I was like, everything's fine. It's great. It's all perfect and dandelions. Well, at some point I realized when I do my speeches and there's a lot of strangers in the crowd, I would start to become like a robot and regurgitate everything versus being in the moment, being passionate, being okay with me messing up. And that is the beauty of looking direct and reflecting into your past, as opposed to being stubborn and just stomaching everything, leaving everything in your body for it to just explode later down the line. That's not sustainable. The next one, I have been a hypocrite in sermonizing tolerance while skimming for a ministry to pretzel. This guy is awesome. So for me, this means, of course, I've been very judgmental, especially in the political aspect. And by and large, the Christian faith has been very judgmental overall on both sides of the equation. We're supposed to be sermonizing tolerance, but we're very quick to judge. And a lot of that could be just a subject of we are sinners at the end of the day. We're not perfect people. However, we could do a better job as a group. We are called to. I don't know why he references a pretzel. I guess that's maybe speaking to the idolatry of the faith. Sometimes we put other things ahead of God. Well, I wouldn't say sometimes, I would say 99% of the time. And that's something that is a daily fight for every Christian. Let me see. I have been unfairly resentful of those that I wish that acted differently when the bidding was essential. So kind of tracks back to the other thing. It's really hard to get rid of that resentment when I see hammers coming down. And by and large, what's made me successful in my business is foresight. And so when I see things just collapsing psychologically, financially, emotionally, all of the above ULEs, just whatever subject, add a ULE to it. When I see it all crashing down, of course I'm going to be resentful. But working through that effectively is what I need to work on. I have been a terrible communicator, prone to isolation over sympathy for devils. Here's what immediately people think of when they think of Kamala on the opposite side. Oh yeah, she loves killing babies and she's working for the Illuminati and all this QAnon stuff. Without reading into the deeper context of things, like there are situations where abortion can be feasible, in my opinion. Like if the mother is gonna die, if the mother is gonna have a non-viable baby that's just gonna come out of her area randomly throughout the day, and why would you have to deal with such a crushing thing without planning for it, without having a doctor have their full options available, or even be able to describe the options available without legal repercussions. So all these things are being ignored, I feel, and it's sad. It's short-sighted, and it's kind of like, it doesn't deny the first part of this line, though. I've been a terrible communicator. And so that just kind of draws to the perspective of that. I also have been, in my own private time, critical of Kamala for what she did. I even emailed the Democratic Party like, hey, you idiots, you alienated a whole bunch of people. But nevertheless, I was a terrible communicator with my friends, very judgmental. I was a jerk face. Let's be real. I probably will continue to be, because it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, this guy that's eliminating millions of people's jobs and forcing a recession and is adulterous, and I just want, never mind. Let's just move on. I have been my own worst enemy since the very genesis of Rebels. So this is a pretty direct Adam and Eve reference, in my opinion. So our proneness to sin is just kind of built into us, so we have to fight it. We have to break out of it. And that's what makes the God coming down, bringing Jesus down, is so beautiful, is that it's a literally constant tugging of the heart to change, to do better, to get rid of this sinful life. And although we may not be perfect at the end of life, we may be something that is beautiful, like a Billy Graham, for example, or many of the different pastors I've met over my life, where it's like, man, I'm talking to somebody that's really sweet and pure, even though there may be something they've struggled with in the past, or even actively, their heart is for you. And they spend, like, even, there was this church I attended many years back before I switched, and there was maybe 5 pastors serving about 3,000 members, and the lead pastor, the guy at the top, spend time and interviewing each single member to make sure they were right for the church. They understood the plight of Christ. They understood what he did for us. And I was just like, whoa. And then the pastors underneath also, it was like a hierarchy, like it was a reporting system. Like one pastor actually ended up over time being in the small group I joined, and I would over time see that essentially the pastors will report up to the main pastor and be like, how's Ivan doing? How's this other person doing? Do we need to support them somehow? So a structured way of care. So that helps us to get rid of this rebellious mindset too, this sinful mindset, I feel. Let's go into these last 2 lines. Today I pulled 3 ghost crabs out of rock and sand where the low tide showcased a promised land. So whenever I meet this guy, Aesop Rock, I got to ask him about that, because it wasn't that direct for me. So last one, I told them, you will grow to be something dynamic and impressive. You are patient and you are gallant and you are festive. Then I let them go. Okay, so he's clearly talking about building up these little ghost crabs and speaking to them in a loving manner. And then towards the end, I feel like he's saying, at least for me, when he let them go, he could have cared for them the rest of his life, but then he let them go, and he was like, oh man, I spoke all these words of building up, but I never built the support system to actually build them up effectively. So makes me think of, we could we could join a, let's say, what's that? I used to be a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters. There could have been times where I could have just said, yeah, you're going to do great things, and you're going to be a great person. You're going to grow up to do great, amazing things. But if I wasn't there to support the environment, to mentor him, to, have coffee with him, hang out with him, grab lunch, then what's the support system, right? So make sure you're spending time effectively with people you love and want to mentor or coach, or just overall do better, especially if you see them in the depressed state of mind, which I believe the majority country will be in short order, if not already. So this has been the first episode of this musical analysis video. It was super long, but I hope you love music too and could appreciate extra details and context that you may not have thought of before. Thanks for your time. Catch you later.